In the sprawling canopy of Arborea, where colossal genetically engineered trees pierced the clouds, Thora Vinestrider awoke to the gentle swaying of her home. The living pod, nestled within a massive branch, pulsed with bioluminescent veins that bathed her quarters in a soft, ethereal glow. As she stretched and rose from her moss-lined bed, Thora couldn't shake the lingering unease that had been growing within her for weeks. Despite the seeming perfection of their treetop utopia, something felt off. A discord in the otherwise harmonious symphony of their society. Thora made her way to the nearest skywalk, a translucent pathway connecting the various living pods and communal spaces throughout the city. Below her feet she could see the lower levels of Arborea, where mist swirled around the trunks of the massive trees, obscuring the forest floor from view. The morning sun filtered through the canopy, creating dappled patterns of light that danced across the walkway. As she walked, Thora nodded greeting to her fellow citizens, all of whom wore the same serene smiles that had become the hallmark of their society. At the central hub of her residential cluster, Thora met up with her close friend, Hazel Breezesong. Hazel's usually cheerful demeanor seemed subdued, her eyes darting nervously as she spoke. "Have you heard about Elm?" Hazel whispered, her voice barely audible above the soft rustle of leaves. "They say he's gone." Thora felt a chill run down her spine. Elm was the third person this month to vanish without a trace. The officials always gave the same explanation, that the missing had simply chosen to relocate to another part of the city, but something about their rehearsed responses rang hollow. As they made their way to the communal dining area, Thora and Hazel passed by one of the many holoscreens that dotted the city. The face of Nissa Shadowleaf, the charismatic leader of Arborea, smiled down at them. Her soothing voice filled the air, speaking of harmony, progress, and the great strides their society had made. But beneath the comforting words, Thora sensed an undercurrent of something else. A hidden meaning that she couldn't quite grasp. The day progressed like any other in Arborea, with citizens tending to the needs of the great trees, participating in community projects, and engaging in leisurely pursuits. Yet as Thora went about her tasks, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Occasionally, she would catch glimpses of small, drone-like insects flitting between the leaves, their metallic bodies glinting in the sunlight. Were they simple pollinators, or something more sinister? As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the canopy, Thora made a decision. It was time to uncover the truth behind the disappearances, no matter the cost. Little did she know that her quest for answers would shake the very foundations of Arborea and challenge everything she believed about their supposed utopia. As the days passed, Thora's investigation into the disappearances gained momentum. She began by carefully observing the routines of her fellow citizens, noting any deviations or unusual behaviors. During her shifts tending to the great trees, she overheard whispered conversations that quickly fell silent at her approach. The air of unease in Arborea seemed to grow thicker, like the mist that perpetually shrouded the forest floor far below. Thora couldn't shake the feeling that the trees themselves were watching, their leaves rustling with secrets just beyond her comprehension. One evening, as twilight painted the canopy in hues of lavender and gold, Thora noticed Hazel acting strangely. Her friend's movements were jerky and unfocused, her eyes glazed over as if in a trance. When Thora approached, Hazel snapped out of it, claiming she was just tired from her day's work. But Thora had seen something in that moment, a flicker of otherworldly light behind Hazel's eyes that defied explanation. The incident only fueled Thora's determination to uncover the truth hiding beneath Arborea's serene surface. Thora's quest for answers led her to the outskirts of the central administrative district, where the largest and oldest of the genetically engineered trees stood. Here, the living pods gave way to more traditional structures built into the massive branches, their architecture a blend of organic shapes and sleek, advanced materials. As she navigated the less familiar terrain, Thora spotted Nissa Shadowleaf emerging from a hidden entrance in the tree's trunk, flanked by stern-looking guards. The leader's usual warm smile was absent, replaced by a look of grim determination that sent a shiver down Thora's spine. Emboldened by her discovery, Thora began to push the boundaries of Arborea's social norms. She asked pointed questions during community gatherings, gently probing for inconsistencies in the official narratives. Some of her fellow citizens responded with nervous glances and hurried excuses, while others seemed to awaken from a daze, as if truly contemplating their reality for the first time. The drone-like insects appeared with increasing frequency, their soft buzzing a constant reminder of unseen surveillance. As Thora's investigations deepened, she found an unexpected ally in Nissa Shadowleaf's assistant, a quiet, observant woman named Lila. During a chance encounter in one of the city's lush gardens, Lila slipped Thora a data crystal, her eyes conveying a silent plea. Later, in the privacy of her living pod, Thora accessed the crystal's contents. What she found shattered her understanding of Arborea. Fragmented records of experiments, theories about higher dimensions, and most disturbingly, a list of names, those who had disappeared labelled as ascended. The final entry on the list sent a chill through Thora's body. It read, Hazel Breezesong, candidate for ascension. The revelation about Hazel's impending ascension spurred Thora into desperate action. She knew she had to save her friend, but time was running out. Under the cover of night, Thora made her way through the shadowy canopy towards Hazel's living pod. The bioluminescent pathways, usually a source of comfort, now cast an eerie glow that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. As she moved, Thora noticed the trees swaying despite the lack of wind, their branches creaking and groaning as if trying to impede her progress. Upon reaching Hazel's pod, Thora found it empty, signs of a struggle evident in the dishevelled interior. A chill ran down her spine as she realised she might already be too late. Suddenly, a soft whirring sound alerted her to the presence of the drone-like insects. They swarmed around her, their metallic bodies glinting menacingly in the low light. Thora swatted at them frantically, her heart pounding as she fled the pod and raced along the skywalks, the mechanical swarm in hot pursuit. Her flight led her to the heart of Arborea, the central hub where the largest tree stood. Here the architecture became more imposing, with structures that seemed to defy the laws of nature spiralling around the massive trunk. As Thora approached, she saw a group of robed figures emerging from a concealed entrance. Among them was Hazel, her eyes vacant and her movements robotic. Leading the procession was Nissa Shadowleaf, her usual serene expression replaced by one of fervent zeal. Thora's attempt to intervene was thwarted as strong hands grasped her from behind. She found herself face to face with Lila, Nissa's assistant, whose eyes now blazed with the same otherworldly light she had seen in Hazel's. "You don't understand, Thora," Lila said, her voice resonating with an unnatural timbre. "Ascension is a gift. The trees have chosen us." As Thora struggled, she felt the bark of the great tree behind her shift and move, tendrils of wood wrapping around her limbs and holding her in place. Immobilized, Thora could only watch as Nissa led the group to a circular platform at the base of the central tree. The leader raised her arms, and the air itself seemed to ripple and distort. A shimmering portal materialized, its surface reflecting impossible geometries and colors that hurt to look at directly. One by one, the robed figures stepped into the portal, their forms elongating and dissolving as they passed through. As Hazel approached the threshold, she turned back, and for a brief moment Thora saw a flicker of recognition in her friend's eyes. Then, with a serene smile, Hazel stepped into the light and vanished. As the portal closed behind Hazel, a wave of energy pulsed through the great tree, causing the tendrils holding Thora to loosen momentarily. Seizing her chance, she broke free and lunged towards Nissa Shadowleaf. The two women grappled at the edge of the platform, their struggle illuminated by the fading glow of the otherworldly gateway. Thora's mind raced with questions, her voice hoarse as she demanded answers. "What have you done to them? Where have they gone?" Nissa's serene mask cracked, revealing a complex mix of emotions beneath: conviction, fear, and something akin to pity. Their confrontation was interrupted by a deep, reverberating sound that seemed to emanate from the very core of the tree. The entire structure of Arborea shuddered, and Thora watched in awe and terror as the bark of the central tree began to shift and ripple. Faces emerged from the wood, countless visages of those who had ascended, their expressions an unsettling blend of ecstasy and agony. Among them, Thora recognized Elm, and to her horror, Hazel, their features now alien and transcendent. Nisa, seeing Thora's shock, softened her stance. "Now you begin to understand," she said, her voice tinged with a mixture of triumph and resignation. "The trees are not just our home, Thora. They are gateways to a higher plane of existence. Those who ascend become one with a vast cosmic consciousness." As Nisa spoke, more of Arborea's citizens emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with the now familiar otherworldly light. Thora realized with a start that what she had interpreted as a sinister plot was in fact a transformative process that much of the population seemed to embrace willingly. Overwhelmed and outnumbered, Thora fled from the central hub, her mind reeling from the revelations. As she raced through the canopy, she noticed changes in the very fabric of Arborea. The boundaries between organic and inorganic blurred, with trees and technology seamlessly merging. The drone-like insects no longer pursued her, but instead coalesced into shifting patterns that seemed to convey complex information. Every leaf, every branch, every drop of bioluminescent sap pulsed with an intelligence that both awed and terrified her. Reaching the outskirts of the city, Thora found herself at a precipice overlooking the mist-shrouded forest floor. For the first time, she could see beyond the veil of mist, and what she saw took her breath away. The world below was not the barren wasteland she had been led to believe, but a vibrant ecosystem teeming with life, a life that seemed to exist in symbiosis with the ascended beings above. As the truth of Arborea's nature washed over her, Thora was faced with a monumental decision: to remain in the world she knew, clinging to her humanity, or to take a leap of faith into a transcendent but unknowable future. As Thora stood at the precipice, the full weight of her discovery settled upon her. The choice before her was monumental: remain tethered to her known reality, or embrace the unknowable transcendence that Arborea offered. The swirling mists below seemed to call to her, promising answers to questions she hadn't even thought to ask. In that moment, she felt a presence behind her and turned to find Nissa Shadowleaf approaching, her expression now one of understanding and patience. "I know it's overwhelming," Nissa said, her voice gentle. "I too once stood where you stand, filled with doubt and fear." She extended her hand, palm up, revealing a small seed that pulsed with an inner light. "This is the key to ascension, Thora. A symbiotic merge with the collective consciousness of Arborea. Those who choose this path don't disappear, they evolve." As if to illustrate her point, the nearby trees shimmered, and Thora saw glimpses of familiar faces in the patterns of bark and leaves, her friends and neighbours transformed yet still present. With trembling hands, Thora accepted the seed. As it touched her skin, she felt a rush of sensation, fleeting images of vast cosmic landscapes, the interconnectedness of all living things, and the promise of knowledge beyond human comprehension. She saw Hazel, Elm, and countless others. Their consciousness expanded far beyond the confines of individual existence. They hadn't been lost, they had transcended, becoming part of something greater than themselves. Tears streamed down Thora's face as understanding dawned. The disappearances, the secrecy, the unsettling changes in Arborea, all of it had been leading to this moment of choice. The seed in her palm offered a gateway to a higher plane of existence, a chance to shed the limitations of her human form and join a vast cosmic network of shared consciousness. Yet, the enormity of what she would leave behind gave her pause. Her individuality, her memories, her very sense of self, all would be transformed in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. As the first light of dawn broke through the canopy, Thora made her decision. With a deep breath, she brought the seed to her lips. The moment it touched her tongue, she felt herself begin to change. Her consciousness expanded, merging with the trees, the mist, the very air around her. She saw Hazel, Elm, and all the others who had ascended, their essences intertwined with the fabric of Arborea and beyond. Thora Vinestrider, as she had been, ceased to exist. In her place arose a being of pure energy and thought, connected to a vast network of minds that spanned dimensions. As her physical form dissolved, becoming one with Arborea, her last human thought was one of profound peace and understanding. The Utopia hadn't been hiding a terrible secret. It had been nurturing the next step in human evolution, a transcendence beyond the boundaries of flesh and individual consciousness.